So hello, everyone. For folks who don't know me, my name is Carl Gouldman. I am the director for the Integrated Ocean Observing System Office within NOAA, and I'm providing an update for the program today. If you like my slides and presentation, there are people that deserve all the credit. If you don't like it, it's my fault. I didn't represent their good work well. Thank you, Ryan Greck, who puts my slides together, and for all the subject experts that she worked with to get this presentation together today. Next slide. So thank you to GCOOS and congratulations. You've already heard about some of the great work that's going on and some of the new work from Jorge. And so I don't need to cover it all in detail, but we wanted to congratulate you for getting your BIL submissions in, for partnering on those new projects at GCOOS and the Water Center, and working with Southern Mississippi Rutgers and on the Hurricane Glider work, as always, and our radio operators working group as well, and for the joint MBON and ocean acidification work as well. So good job, keep up the good work, and thank you. Next slide. Next slide, Jen. So just for folks that may not, just as an orienting slide for what we talk about, or what we're trying to direct from the IOOS office within NOAA. The boxes on this chart are basically the components of the IOOS enterprise within an org chart context within NOAA. We're the lead federal agency for implementing IOOS by the legislation. We're supposed to work with all those federal partners up on the upper left of the slide. We live within the National Ocean Service part of NOAA, so all of our budget justifications and reductions and increases come through the Ocean Service and NOAA within the Department of Commerce. We have an interagency ocean observation committee that's mandated by law. We also have an IOOS advisory committee. Barb Kirkpatrick has just joined the new slate of members. Deborah Hernandez is the new chair for that advisory committee, and I think our first meeting in January is likely to be in Gulfport, in the Gulf of the GCOOS region, and so we'll be asking Jorge to come and present on GCOOS activities there. And then the IOOS regional associations, of course, that you know well, are implementing IOOS on the coast, in the water, with the customers every day, and we connect to that global ocean observing system, partnering with the office in NOAA that works on that, David Legler's office, the global ocean observing, the global ocean monitoring and observing program. And then the IOOS Association is a nonprofit association representing all the regions, and works with the regions to advocate and communicate about the program. And Kristen Urinchik is the director there, and she's done an amazing job in the last year of coordinating all of the work that the regions have done to talk about the value of the program in the face of FY25 proposed President's budget reductions. The success there, that's a huge thank you, is over 1,000 letters of support, each one with a mini sentence or two of testimonial about what impact IOOS has had for certain stakeholders. And so those statements we have and we're going to use in the years to come, because I think they're compelling anecdotes about why IOOS is so important. Next slide. So for the year, we've got ocean technology transition projects to highlight. We've got coastal ocean modeling testbed projects. Both of those are elements of our program that we run separate funding opportunities for every few years. So the ocean technology transition is designed to move technologies to a more advanced technology level or infuse them into operations. And we have several projects that are going to be announced soon using Inflation Reduction Act funding under the Ocean-Based Climate Resilience Accelerators category, and those are 3-year projects that we're fully funding up front, so that they're gonna launch in this next quarter or so, next few months, and they'll be ongoing for up to 3 years. The Coastal Ocean Modeling Testbed, we are also going to be announcing 4 new projects that are starting about, I think the announcement should happen by March timeframe, March 2025, and so look forward to those. And then another big deal for us that you can see in the GCOOS report outs is the Inflation Reduction Act funding has moved to the regions, and we have 2 different topic areas in there, and we're still implementing the infrastructure law improvements. And then the bottom item on that list, we have a new sort of program area that's called Ocean-Based Climate Resilience Accelerators, and the the activity of those accelerators is going to be working with cohorts of companies that are going to rotate through a program of mentorship and business development to try to solve issues and find market opportunities in the ocean space where we all work. And so we're really looking forward to that program. Next slide, please. So as part of our work this year,
don't care.
Someone's not on mute, and if you are not on mute, maybe mute yourself. We have a partnership with the Marine Technology Society, and they've been working on something we call Dialogues with Industry for over a year now with the global system, and we have a series of webinars coming up in the new year that are on the calendar there. There's a QR code, so if you're interested in harmful algal blooms and you want to be a part of these dialogues, please join the fun. So I wanted to give you that as a heads up to something coming up related to what GCOOS might care about. Next slide. And so this is the partnership slide for that activity I just mentioned. The IOOS office is funding work at the Marine Technology Society. We're coordinating it with the global system and with the National Centers for Coastal Ocean Science. The leads at MTS are Hans van Smuren and Casey Hoffman, with Stenka Willis and Tim Moltmann. And the rest of the names are down there on that slide as well. So like I said, join those dialogues if you're interested. I think it'll be a good set of discussions. Next slide. So this is just a summary of what I mentioned earlier. The Inflation Reduction Act, the section of funding that we received that we've moved on to new grants is called Coastal Resilience Service Delivery. And the language there on the slide is what we're asking the regions to do, which is improve coastal ocean observing, strengthen the delivery of data and predictions, and enhance partnerships. And so that work is just getting underway, and we have about 5 years of grants for that work to happen, built upon everything else we already have going. And so I think it's a great opportunity for us to make a evolutionary step change in how we implement IOOS across the network. And I think it's really exciting. Next slide. So within that work, we're trying to implement in a way that uses this conceptual equitable service delivery and this service delivery framework. This image on this slide is from a document that NOAA has endorsed as a new framework or way of doing what you all already do in GCOOS, which it basically means iterative and ongoing engagement with stakeholders to understand needs, deliver products and services that meet those needs, get feedback about how that's going, and make improvements on those services. So I think that's a superpower within IOOS that we've been using for years. I think we can improve it and make it even better by deepening the bench of players that are doing the engagement with stakeholders, by deepening the bench of players that are doing product and services delivery. And with that workforce that I just described, refine the ways that we track the requirements we're gathering when we learn about needs, make sure we're giving those requirements back to the system, if you will, and it helps us with that prioritization of our next investments so that we're making sure to stay relevant, most impactful, and as efficient as possible. Next slide. So this is a little bit redundant with some of the stuff I already mentioned. The bubbles on this diagram are not spatially accurate to the dollars they represent. The top line starts with 3.3 billion. And then the next section that we're getting most of the funding in the IOOS office to execute. The IOOS office is managing those marine blue colored, marine green colored bubbles. So we're having the challenge and the wonderful opportunity to execute about $218 million worth of that set of funding that came in. And the breakdown at the bottom, we have topic 1 and topic 2 for the IOOS regional piece at 55 million and 45 million. And then we have 2 different chunks of that ocean-based climate resilience accelerator work that I mentioned before. So the OTT and some inbound projects were funded out of that, and then the accelerators program as well. Next slide. So this is just a timeline that I've put together at a basic level. So when I'm out and about talking with the IOOS regions, you see that we're about to announce in the middle of that slide there the Okra Phase 2 awards. That's the Ocean-Based Climate Resilience Accelerators. December 9th is our expected announcement of 4 new Phase 2 awards. And then we expect to award the infrastructure funds for 3 different provisions to be done sometime in late March, April. And then we have the core funding to the RAs for FY25 should come in July as usual. That's just a reminder for folks of when those things are happening this year. Next slide. And now just a little bit of acknowledgement of the work that we all do in understanding ocean science and ocean data and information, and then providing that data. And this is just a stunning graphic of the water levels in terms of the storm surge in Hurricane Helene. And you see those levels above the mean high water mark. And this is a co-ops tide gauge representation here. And I want to just say I'm so glad that nobody was in the GCOOS network. We had most people came through that safe, and I'm so sorry for all the damages folks had to go through. I know it's very difficult when these types of storms come. Let's go to next slide, Jen. I'm just going to flash for you a few examples here. Here's some graphs from the glider highlight what was before Hurricane Helene, and it showed that the shelf surface layer is really shallow and warm prior to the storm arriving. And if you go to the next slide, I have an after view, which shows that the after view, the shelf surface layer is deeper and cooler. And so the depth of that horizontal line where the bend in the curve in temperature happens was at 38 meters here rather than at the 25 meters in the screen before. And it's a bit cooler. And that's to be expected. And it's this type of pictures where we're seeing that the models are performing fairly well. The gliders are helping by being assimilated into those models and making small corrections, and getting the ocean right is something we've been showing that we're able to do better and better each year. And so this is very important work that's relevant for understanding and reducing impacts from these kinds of storms. Next slide. And this is just something that I thought was noteworthy as well when you look at the ocean heat content of Gulf of Mexico, and the red line there is this year's heat content, and the blue line is the average between 2013 to 2023. So you see that 24 is a hot year, as you all are well aware, and I know there's a storm bearing down this weekend right now. So I hope everyone is feeling all right and being able to be prepared and make the right decisions about safety and property. Next slide. And so this slide was circulated around the office by the modeling team leading up to Milton making landfall. So we've been through Helene and had that information. And here's another set where we're trying to show the integrated field campaign and the different gliders that are in the water, the different sail drone and surface currents, and then the other types of assets where we're getting data. And I just wanted to highlight that in this year, of course, we've seen a lot of storms in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's becoming, unfortunately, more and more frequent all the time. And so the work that we do is really important, and I appreciate everything GCOOS is contributing. Next slide. I think this is it for me. Yes, so I'll stop there and hand it back to you, Kim, for moderating for questions, if that's the right move.
Thank you, Carl. Yes, I appreciate that. And we have plenty of time for questions. If you have a question, you can turn your camera on and ask, or you can put it in the chat and I will monitor the chat.
Susan, thank you for coming on the screen. I forgot to name Susan Fox, who is our regional coordinator for GCOOS in the office. And so Susan helped Ryan help get all of my slides together as well and make sure that Jorge is able to get to me to tell me what he needs for these types of presentations.
Well, I appreciate that, but I will say that Ryan did the heavy lift here. So, Stephen, you have a question, I guess.
Yeah. Thanks, Carl, for that nice presentation. I remember back in, I think, 2004 at the industry ocean observing workshop that was held in Houston. I think there were people from the reinsurance industry, and I know they do a lot of their own work and fund their own observations, but is there, do they work at all with the IOOS office and contribute anything, or?
Yes, is the short answer. Not a lot lately, except that they're in conversations at higher levels of NOAA with Dr. Spinred, for instance, and with Dr. Kapnick on how to use our data and information across the board. So they're pretty interested in all types of data, including ocean coastal data. But for instance, Dr. Spinred's going to the Committee of the Parties COP29 meetings and trying to have the reinsurance industry on one of his panels there. And so we're having ongoing discussions because they're basically a super user of what we do, right? They're gonna use our information and infuse it into their work. And that's becoming, I think, more and more important and impactful, and the dollar values of the storm damages that we're seeing are meaning that it's even more important than ever.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I don't see any hands up. I don't see any other questions in the chat. Any other last comments, Carl or Susan? Nope.
No.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks
All
for
right.
having us.